For everyone. Let's start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is the site plan application for 144 Old Farm Road. We start with consultants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, yes.
Rich Warren, you want to go first?
Sure, happy to.
Thank you.
So I was able to take a look at the materials that were submitted by Thread Collective for this application. They submitted a revised landscape plan and some additional details to address the information that was identified in my May 13th report. Their drawings overall now show temporary siltation fencing along the property lines, which is something we recommended. The drainage structure, and this is on the site plan as opposed to landscape plan, the drainage structure that was in Old Farm Road has now been relocated into the property. The details relative to the proposed landscaping plan are provided. That's this drawing here, which I'll go over in a moment. They added a notation on the site plan that says the grading plan is to be followed by the contractor, and the contractor is required to have an as-built topographic survey with 1-foot contours submitted at the conclusion of the project. This way they can confirm that they've actually followed what they've asked the board to approve. And the applicant also provided in their covering letter that the health department has no objection to the sanitary system positioning on their plans. They don't have approval yet, but that'll be something that's required prior to the issuance of a building permit. That's something that we recommended because we wanted to make sure that as they did the grading and they placed the other structures, drainage, et cetera, that we knew that the sanitary system was not going to be an issue. Regarding the landscape plan, they're showing 8 trees to be removed around the perimeter. Those are the trees you see with X's on it. They don't identify what they are, but they are trees to be removed. They're showing the installation of 12 arborvitae having a height of 8 feet. They're to be located along the property line, along the eastern property line, and then adjacent to the southern property line closest to the house. They also are showing installation of 1 eastern red cedar, which is up on the northern property line, north of the swimming pool. And that's to be located between an 8-inch diameter pine and a triple birch. And a tupelo is to be located adjacent to the proposed driveway, a 2.5-inch caliber tupelo. That's actually an appropriate size for tupelo because they are actually difficult to transplant. So you typically want to have a smaller size tupelo if you give it the best chance of success. They're showing plantings within and adjacent to the retaining walls that are around the house and the pool. They have beach grass, switchgrass, blue gamma grass, and Indian grass, all having 1 gallon size planting, and the remainder of the site will be planted as lawn. So given what they've shown here, I think that this matter is ready for approval by the board. They have met the requirements of the village for the submission of a landscape plan that's identified in 245-68C4F of the code. I've recommended that the project limiting fence be maintained throughout the construction until the disturbed land on the site is stabilized with plantings. And I've also recommended as a condition of the approval, not only the notation on the plan, but in your condition that you require they provide a topographic survey at the conclusion of the project to demonstrate that they've done the grading as they've proposed. Other than that, I think it's ready for approval. It's a type 2 action under SECRA, and accordingly, no further environmental review is required by the village.
Board have any questions?
Kevin.
Sure. Kevin Peterman from LKMA as village engineer. Not much to add from what Rich said. We did have a chance to review the revised design documents dated May 29th. We have found that the plans do conform substantially to the requirements of the village code. What has been revised since the last time, we did have some concerns regarding the proposed trench drain. So in the previous submission, the applicant was proposing a trench drain outside of their property boundary. And so we just recommended that that trench drain be relocated to within the property boundary. The applicant has done that in this submission. And we also asked them to kind of demonstrate what they're looking to do. There's an existing catch basin. It's in village right of way, but it's at the base of this driveway. And so it was omitted in some of the previous versions of the plans. And so we asked the applicant to depict that on the current set of plans and demonstrate how it will remain or how it will be altered. And so the applicant has depicted that on the plans. They're showing it's going to remain, and they're showing now a gravel driveway, which will allow them to kind of meet that grade a little more easily as opposed to installing a concrete apron. The last concern we had was just about silt fencing. We asked that the applicant provide silt fencing around the entire property and not just along the frontage of Old Farm Road, and they have done that. And so we do feel they have addressed our concerns, and we would support approval as well, with the condition that they be responsible to repair any damage to the village right of way.
Anyone have questions? So I guess we're set to approve this?
Yep, unless the applicant has anything else to say. Okay.
Thank God.
So Mayor, you have a resolution in your packet that if you just want to read the resolve portion from now therefore.
Therefore, I don't see that piece of it.
Second to last page, page just before, there you go. At the very bottom.
Ah, there we go. We're done with the consultant.
We are done with both Rich and Kevin.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your fine work. Until next time, thank you very much.
Of course, take care, guys.
Okay, whereas the planning found, okay, now therefore upon due deliberation and hearing, be resolved and found by the planning board that the application for the construction and regrading of portions of the property are found to be consistent with provisions of section 245-66F of the village code, and that the work proposes the type 2 action classification under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and as such requires no further environmental review, and that the site plan application is approved as depicted and set forth on the aforesaid plans, subject to the following conditions. One, that the temporary silt fence shown on site plan and zoning diagram sheet T102.00 be maintained throughout the construction and until the disturbed land is stabilized with plantings. Two, that the applicant shall be responsible to repair any damage to village right of way incurred as a result of the subject application. Three, that prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the new residence, that the applicant provide the building department an as-built topographical survey in sufficient detail to confirm that the changes to the topography are consistent with the proposed recontouring plan submitted to the Board of Trustees as set forth above. I make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. You're set free to the next step.
Is that, then I can go ahead and demolish or?
No, you've got to get your building permit and all of that there, but this is your site plan.
Okay, so it's not the.
Call me tomorrow, call me tomorrow, and I'll give you the
Okay.
next steps, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I think you're up next, sir. Request for support of amendment to the Southampton Town Planning Board subdivision.
Good afternoon, Wade Bruin, O'Shea Marcinson Bruin on behalf of Herbert and Dorothy Kunstbeck, who are the owners of 357 Town Line Road and 705 Hedges Lane. I don't know if you have a package in front of you or otherwise.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the first thing we need to look at is a subdivision map approved by the Southampton County Planning Board, and it was recorded in the county clerk's office September 14th, 1978. And as a condition of that approval, there's 4 lots on the southwest corner of Hedges Lane and Town Line Road. Each lot is approximately 90,000 square feet, a little over, almost 100,000 each lot. One lot, so lot 1 was right on the corner. Lot 2 is just to the south, lot 3 was to the southwest, and lot 4 fronts on Hedges Lane. Lot 3 was a flag lot. And the planning board, as a condition of approval, required that lots 3 and 4 share a common driveway out to Hedges Lane. Lots 1 and 2 share a driveway out to Town Line Road. I poured through the planning board files, and all there was an informal discussion in April of 1977, where there was a discussion and agreement that they provide common driveways for the lots. There was no explanation or any rationale given, and normally the planning board would have identified that either they were flag lots, which in this case, lot 3 is a flag lot, and typically they would insist that a common driveway be required where there were multiple flag lots. Here there was only one. The other times the planning board would do it is where there's site distance issues, whether it be due to the vertical movements of the street or horizontal movements on a curve or the like, or that there was some other traffic issue. Here, there's none of that. So here we are some number of years later. Herbert and Dorothy are still the owners. They were joint applicants back in 1978. They still own lots 1 and 2. Lots 3 and 4 were sold and houses were built. And then lots 3 and 4 do share a common driveway. Lots 1 and 2 remain vacant at this time. And the owners are looking to either convey to their family, children, or they put it on the market, test the market to see what's there. And a lot of questions have come back about the requirement for the common driveway out to Town Line Road. They asked us to explore what rationale there was for that and whether or not there was any issues or potential to relocate and perhaps have separate driveways for these lots. And if you're familiar, we provided surveys. Among the surveys, you'll see that shows the improvements, utility lines and the like. One of the things that I noticed that was not shown during the subdivision period was the relationship of this property to the property now in the town of East Hampton, which is Wainscott Main Road. And you can see that you're probably more familiar than I am with the traffic. First of all, I experienced turning on the side of Town Line Road, and a lot of people, despite the stop sign, tend to make that turn off of Hedges right onto Town Line Road because they have a lot of sight distance to the north and they just zip and they're moving pretty good. The second thing is most of the traffic is turning into Wainscott, our Wainscott Main Road, and the lesser amount of traffic is going south. So this gave us an idea that perhaps we could go back to the town planning board, since this is a town covenant, that we could amend the covenant and seek individual driveways for the lots. And I gave you a copy of a letter we submitted to the town planning board, and in it identified a number of reasons. Interestingly, the town of Southampton already gave a street address for lot number 1 as Hedges Lane. So that in itself is confusing. They would have a driveway off the town line. 911 purposes, you would think you would go to Hedges to get access to the property, but in fact, the driveway would be a shared driveway off of town line. The other issues are there's no site distance issues. It's entirely flat. So our thought and request to the town is that we be allowed to have separate driveways. And that the driveway for lot one, which fronts on Hedges, would be in the westerly part of the property, 270 feet or so away from the intersection. And within 25 feet, no closer than 25 feet to the westerly property line. So that would allow some separation as well as any landscaping or otherwise. Although they're immediately adjacent to that common driveway for the others. So I don't believe there would be any impacts doing that. Similarly, on town line, you would locate the driveway south of the intersection, more than 50 feet south of the intersection of Wayne Scott Main Road, but also 25 feet north of the existing south property line.
Wait,
in
I
the
didn't
common
get that. Could you repeat that again? You're gonna put the driveway for the second one?
Okay, and I just sort of marked down here, and put that here. More than 50 feet from the intersection as well as 25 feet from these two driveways to the south.
Yeah, so there is, so on that map up there, there is driveways right up the southern side of.
There is flag and two separate driveways there. Again, I don't believe there would be an impact putting another driveway against two other driveways.
But there's 25 feet between them.
We would, excuse me, we're proposing to separate our driveway by 25 feet from the property line. In other words, they couldn't put a driveway as close than 25 feet to the southerly property. But there would also be at least 50 feet from the intersection as well. So that's our request. We had attached that language that I just described in a proposed amended declaration. And being that this is now in the village, we're looking for your support for the amendment, because eventually you will get applications to build houses and do site plan perhaps and curb cuts. And I think it would be.
That's my question, is the jurisdictional question here.
So the covenant is interesting.
It says it's successors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I have an issue.
But if I might raise that question, there was a debate, Mr. Bruin and I had over email and with the village clerk about that. Wait, you want to give us a little, your thoughts on that? Because
So interestingly, this isn't the first time I've been here to deal with covenants and subdivisions. If you recall, the two subdivisions north of Montauk Highway that have clearing covenants. And we were before the board, and at that time, Mr. Tohill, who was the village attorney, I actually said, well, it says successors. Isn't the village a successor to the town? That you would think is the logical thing. However, we're dealing with a real property instrument. So you got to be careful that you're not mixing regulatory successors with real property successors. But as a matter of law, the village is not a successor. It's not anything in the statute of establishing the village that you're automatically a successor to real property instruments that were entered into or agreements entered into with the town.
Right.
And just as an example, just a few years ago, with the support of this board, you asked the state legislature to amend the state code, which they did, which allows this board to enforce conservation easements that were imposed by the town of Southampton. And two things. One is that's a recognition that there is no automatic successor, because all that language is in all the instruments, conservation easements, agricultural easements that the town obtained during their subdivision process. And thus that legislation now allows this village to enforce those town easements, notwithstanding you were not a party to them. So that legislation went through. Unfortunately, it only applies to instruments that were accepted under 247 of the general municipal law, which are interest in open space. So that is your agricultural easements, that is your conservation easements and the like. What a covenant like this was not accepted it's not an open space easement. Other covenants like underground utilities, all those things which were sort of standard covenants in a subdivision are not open space instruments under 247. I'd asked Mr. Tohill, why didn't they go further?
So would the previous application that we had where you came for support for the village before the planning board, do you recall if that had the word successor language or that just?
Had the same exact successor language.
Would you see a path towards this being the word successor by implication being the village? Would you interpret the word successor as being the village? Because who otherwise would be the successor to the planning board of the town of Southampton?
So some municipalities could, like this village, planning board no longer exists and all planning and subdivision review goes through the village board, or in that case, that would be a successor.
Yeah.
I don't know what they anticipate, and I don't think they anticipated it being a village, but this is a question. I don't have a personal opinion one way or another, but I would just think, then why did the village and the state amend that law? But because it was following what Mr. Tohill said, that the town, there's no automatic successor, because there also could be legal instruments that are different than just these covenants.
So we don't want to delay your application and don't want to cause any kind of rough patch in the road to get that done. But I would say that the village definitely has an interest in looking at that or successor language to see if there is a path, at least on land use plans, land use grants. We know the conservation easement argument, and you said it perfectly. But I think on a land use plan, the village would actually, and we're gonna have a further conversation with the town attorney about that we would like to exercise the word successor here, because to us, that seems, Trustee McMillan and I were talking about it before the meeting, the mayor and I have talked about it. It seems that we are the logical word successor, just jurisdictionally within our boundaries.
I don't disagree, but I think it requires at the minimum, some agreement between the town and the village.
I think we should explore that. I think I hear the arguments that are raised. I would almost say that if you were comfortable with it, I would exercise the jurisdiction today as the planning board in the village of Southampton. I mean, the village of Sagaponic. But again, I don't want to cause any undue.
Well, I wouldn't mind if you exercise that. Nonetheless, I may just pursue what I'm doing with the amendment with the town, and then I've covered all my bases to make sure it's changed.
I think we should, if we approve this, we should approve it as the successor. I think it should be in our record.
So I'm comfortable with that. If we approve it, let's do it as a successor. And what I recommend,
Because this sets a standard for us. And that's what I'm.
Precedent for us for the future. Right? I think we have no objection to you going to the town, but I think we'll not only do it as an acknowledgement, but do it as a successor to under the covenant. And then obviously it's not going to cause you any delay in making pursuing your own application to the town.
That's the reason why. The document that Wayne is looking at is the declaration from the subdivision up on Town Line and Scott Line, where the issue was the 25% clearing. And in this document, it does not say that it says the within declaration may not be annulled, waived, changed, or modified, excuse me, unless and until approved by a relationship with a vote of a majority plus one of the planning board of the town of Southampton.
Yeah.
Nor the language of or successor is not in this document.
Well, it is elsewhere, but I mean, I understand what you're saying.
So that is the reason why.
That's kind of the analogy I would draw, that's a hard stop. That didn't really contemplate a successor. And if I was a lawyer, I'd probably say, look, that says planning board, that's 2 words, period, hard stop. In this case, it does contemplate or successor. So I think if the board's comfortable to approve the application as a successor to the planning board of the town of Southampton. And then obviously it has no impact on you pursuing your belt and suspenders if you want to go to the town. And then I think we should engage the town attorney and the supervisor in a dialogue with regard to that, to tell them we're going to start to exercise our authority over that.
Are we the successor?
I would say yes, absolutely.
You would.
Yeah.
I would too. I would think we would all, in our interest.
I don't think the town really has any objection, but I'd like to see what they say. But-
So why don't we table this till next month?
Well, either way, what you can do, if you don't want to exercise it as a successor, you can approve it. You can approve it in support, and then Mr. Bruin can take his client to the town of Southampton's planning board for the application.
Yeah, but I don't see any objection to the way they want to change the driveways. No. It makes perfect sense.
Yes.
So I think, there's no downside to this,
Yeah.
and it'll just clear up the matter and keep.
And potentially just puts us on more advanced.
Right, but I would like to
footing.
approve it with us understanding we are the success.
If you make a finding that you believe you're the successor, and therefore you approve this.
Absolutely.
Fine.
It sounds like we're approving something ahead of what we should be doing.
No, he needs our consent anyway to go to the town of Southampton.
Oh,
He has to
okay.
stop your remarks. I don't wanna even put a blinking red in front of it, obviously it's a good application, let's get it, but we're just putting a little bit more, gas on the pedal, I guess to say.
So the follow-up to that, obviously, is, and I'll talk to Brian, is what instrument do we need to record in the county clerk's office to recognize the event?
Right.
And the language will be a little different because it's set up as the
town.
planning board. Yeah.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
Do we have any idea of what other document successor is involved?
There are some others according.
It's a variety.
Yeah.
It depends on how the town wrote it.
Okay.
Some have it, some don't.
But why would we ever want to give up our optionality
No,
there? Okay.
But that's what I'm saying, so we start here.
And to Trustee Miller's point, it's one of the mayor has said this many times, it's really the privilege of a corporation.
Right.
One of the benefits of privilege.
We need a motion.
I had one more question on this driveway here on Town Line, the parcel 2. Is that gonna be part of the other driveways and then coming into the property, or is that gonna be a fourth driveway, third driveway, I guess?
Maybe a third driveway. Interestingly, that subdivision to the south, it didn't require a common driveway, and there's two separate driveways there.
They're right next to each other.
But that's why we tried to provide separation of.
Yeah, I don't like them when they're three there in a row. That's what I was asking the question about the south side of it, but because there's two there already.
So he's moving it 25 feet.
No, not there.
Yeah, I was gonna keep it 25
Oh,
feet
you
from the
are?
property line, but there'll be three in a row, but it'll be bars separated by 25 feet.
And up here.
From the two.
Right, that's this one.
So it's gonna be 25 feet away from the two.
And a lot of ones doesn't necessarily have to be right next to it.
Yeah.
You're actually giving a window for it to move somewhere.
Correct.
They're gonna be having
We're trying to keep the
big trouble getting
separation
out here.
from the intersection.
Yeah, I was just referring to the south side of the town line and then the hedges. They have the two there together and it looks like there's enough separation from the plan to do.
Yeah.
They're not right three in a row.
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
These two here.
So I would say it's a two-part resolution, really, resolution to approve the application as a successor to the planning board of the town of Southampton within the jurisdiction of the village of Sagaponic. And based on that, resolution approved.
I'll make those motions. Do we have a second?
I'll second with the successor language in there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'll work with the village attorney and Brian, if you want me to also interact with the town attorney.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure it's gonna provoke a conversation, so let's all do it together.
Yeah, because I did submit the letter to the town planning board and it'll come up and hopefully I'll have the letter from the village and start that discussion there.
Great. And again, we're not trying to put you in the middle of it. We're-
No, I appreciate it. Either way.
Not the nickel and dime it, is there a fee associated with this for us at all? Since it seems like it's going to the town of Southampton here.
We have to set it if we're gonna exercise that jurisdiction.
That's a good question because I paid $1,200.
I see.
Before it's $1,200 to
We get a finance guy on the board, this is, he's looking.
I would like to have that.
We do have a fee, David, if it's our subdivision, but not if it's not
Yeah.
one that we haven't done. So,
But if you're
Yeah.
now saying the
But
successor.
if we're now a successor, that's my question.
I think.
We'll figure out that fee schedule.
We got two standards going here?
I think we figure out, we get the ability to actually oversee first, and then we can say.
Agreed.
If we can.
Agreed, but I think if we should put that in for the future.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
That was nice, I was able to draw on my display up there, but somebody did, I didn't do it. So. Somebody did.
What's his
You
name?
have to do it.
Was that you, Jim? Did you draw on my my map?
It wasn't me.
Okay, we have an agricultural fence application, but we don't have an applicant here.
Wait a minute, I did.
You might?
Where'd
Okay.
Michael go? Michael was on, hang on, let's see if he's still there.
Hello, I'm here.
There's Michael. Michael, do you have a camera?
I'll come on right now.
Thank you. There he is. Hello, Michael.
Thank you guys very much. We have submitted for an agricultural fence permit for the east and west perimeters of our farmed portion of our parcel. I work for the family that owns the property at 511 Daniels Lane. I am a newcomer to the to Sagaponic, coming on with them in January, and I'm not sure what the next step, what the next thing I should say is. So please pardon my naivete.
I have a question on what your sentence just was. You're talking about putting a fence east and west?
On the east side of the
How about the north?
the family would like to install a shorter split rail fence in order to keep the view for the neighbors open. Obviously, their home, they don't have a view of their front field.
So did you say yes to the north?
Rhodey, I apologize. It's my understanding that we didn't need to include that because it was under 4 feet.
Well, if you're going to put a split rail fence along the northern border, which is along Daniels Lane, then no, you would not need permission to put up an 8-foot fence. You don't need permission to put that split rail fence, nor if it's under 4 feet, do you need a building permit for it.
Understood.
But the application is for an 8-foot agricultural fence, which you do need permission to do because it is above our 6-foot regulation. So you need specific permission to do that.
Yes.
And so the board is asking whether or not you plan to put the 8-foot fence around the west, north, and east sides of the agricultural field or not.
Yeah, normally a field would be entirely fenced in, so deer couldn't get into it. And I'd like to point out that if we give you a permit to put up a fence around the whole property, you don't have to put up all of it. But a little later, if you find out that you're really not keeping the deer out with a 4-foot fence, you can put that back up without having to come back to us.
Understood.
So I mean, the recommendation is that you apply for an application, for a fence around the whole property. So ultimately, my experience is if you don't fence at all, you're gonna have a deer problem. But that's up to you. If you just wanna put up one fence and it won't scare the deer away, they will go around it.
Why are you putting the fence up?
It's my understanding, again, my apologies, the Stephen Parker, who has been taking care of the property for a while, he is out on leave today. So again, I apologize for not having all the specifics, but it's my understanding that we're involved in the deer culling program. The majority, someone has explained to me that the majority of the movement pattern of the deer come from the large tree farm, which is on the west side of our our property. So that is our push to put a fence on that side.
Well, the deer management people don't need fences. Are you not trying to protect a crop or something?
Yes, we are definitely trying to protect a crop. We have been involved. I have a letter from Dean Foster, our farmer, who's explained that although we are involved in the deer culling program, it has not been successful. Even just ancillary. I left the property yesterday at 5 p.m. and there was probably about 65 deer in the front field.
What are you planting?
They plant buckwheat and wildflower.
Deer go for that?
Sure. So, Michael, I think what Bill is saying to you that you should probably apply for the deer fence all the way around, and if you opt not to do the northern side, that's your choice, but I tell you, it won't stop the deer, in our opinion, but it seems like it's I don't know, I'd be surprised if Dean would want the fence all the way around.
I understand that, and it's
I guess my next, so that's one question, so that's just one of my observations, I think Bill's correct there. Secondly, there is a deer fence that just put up, as you know, across the way. So the deer are gonna find their path in there. And so but that's your choice. The second thing is, I always like to ask this question, but does Dean is farming the property now, correct?
Yes.
And does he have what is the basis of his land use there from a contract standpoint? Is it evergreen every year, or what's the?
Potatoes or?
Does he have a lease?
Does he have a lease for any period of time?
That I don't have the information on. I apologize for not being prepared with that. I can get that information. It's my understanding that the farming is not only for a crop that he farms, but the flowers that are planted also supply an apiary, which we to feed the bees, which we have on property as well. I don't think that I think that might be a separate farmer. I don't know that he manages the bees.
I don't, we really don't want to hold you up, but do you want to come back to us next month and have a better idea, or have the other fella present this?
Well, unfortunately, I feel like we're in a scenario. I don't want to put you guys in an uncomfortable position of allowing us to do something that you're not fully comfortable with because you don't have access to all the information. But I'm worried that we're entering we're coming into the growing season and we're going to lose the crop again. The goal of the family to farm the land is to, keep with the agricultural history of the community and not just leave it as a field to farm it. And I just feel that we're under the clock slightly. Again, that's not on the board, that's on us.
At 6 o'clock last night, there was 43 deer eating those wildflowers.
Yeah, no,
And they're gonna continue if you don't have to close the whole thing in.
Well, those are wildflowers?
Here from Dean or somebody, if Dean is okay, that's not gonna protect any of his crop in there. A split rail fence.
Where's our deer management guy? Yeah, I know. What's going on? You don't have
Can't
permission
you get
to?
those 43 deer out of here?
That was the most successful property we had for 24, 25.
And just for the record, this is John Rashetta. He is our manager of our wildlife management
I
program.
actually saw, and I went through the materials you sent us, and that was your biggest
Yes.
yield there for deer. And they're still sitting there.
511 was? Well, you missed 43 of them.
Yeah, it should be less than 50, but the biggest bedding ground of all is hydroponics right next door. And
At the Golden.
they're going to walk around the fence. There's no doubt, 100%, the deer will walk out to Daniels, they will walk down Daniels, and they will go in. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. If that's your question, it's 100% yes, every single flower will get eaten on that field. And that's my answer
So let me ask, there's wildflowers there now? Or is it potatoes?
Oh, there's
It's not-
wildflowers in there now.
Wildflowers now?
There's wildflowers, but they're not blooming. I mean, they're just coming up.
Oh.
But they're not gonna be there long. 40 deer.
What was your loss, crop loss last year?
It's my understanding that the buckwheat they tried to plant twice, and the wildflower they didn't have the opportunity to replant. So I don't think that there was much of a crop, a success of a crop at all last year. I would say that I would move towards saying we would, as soon as possible, fence in the entire farm field, as you're suggesting. If the consensus is that not fully doing it is not going to do anything.
So I'm gonna make a suggestion, just again, to try to salvage the crops for this year. There's a reason, obviously, that we don't know that's going on with this northern boundary here, because there are some other structures, there are some things in there. This may be part of the reason why.
That's the southern.
That's the southern.
So there might be something going on. So what I would say is, but that's not proposed to be fenced. This piece.
That goes off to the ocean. That's where their house is. So the southern
There's a gate.
portion
Oh, okay.
is, there's a house down there.
So the northern, though, he was saying there was gonna be a split rail fence. That wasn't the fence all the way around. That was the confusing part.
Right.
Yeah. So I might say, if the applicant's willing to amend the application to include it, to fully fence the entire property,
Yes.
and then leave it up to his discretion to do
The
it.
application is to fence the full property.
Oh, it is.
Michael is saying
Okay,
that
that's what I'm asking.
the owner has suggested that perhaps she would like to have a split rail fence along Daniels Lane for the aesthetics. But
Well, I'll say again that we can give you a permit to fence the whole property. If you don't want to put up all the fence, give it a try and see what the deer do.
Yeah.
And then when you find out that the deer just walk in, then you put up the rest of the fence. But you'll have the permit to do it, so it can be done quickly and you won't have to come back.
I would opt for that. I think the family would opt for that. If the guidance is that the whole thing needs to be done, then I believe that that's what we should do. So yes, I agree.
I mean, it's too bad Dean isn't here to talk about this too. I have to tell you, I mean,
Nothing bad, I'm here
okay, so, Michael, we're obviously understand the issue with the deer and everything, and it's just that it's a little bit incomplete here, but we understand the need for it.
So so the application is for the full fence.
yes,
So that's what we have to approve, is yay or nay on the full fence.
Right,
And then he can go figure out.
yes.
People. Okay.
And I would like you to
So
get
rather
back to
than-
us on the lease on Dean too. What's the contract for that?
Okay.
Nervous about the aesthetics. Sagaponic is becoming unesthetically interesting. And if we have a deer management program, hopefully that might take care of their problem, some form or another.
But the deer keep walking in from East Hampton. All those deer that show up by Wainscott Pond, they can smell what's growing over here and it's tasty and they're gonna come right over.
Do deer like potatoes?
Somewhat, yeah, not as much, but they do.
Love
Grow
soybeans.
potatoes.
And they mow the corn there.
So look, I actually give credit to the fact that they're trying to aesthetically have the thing look nicer than having just a complete fence, and I give that credit, but I just think you're gonna find it a failure, to be honest, and Dean would probably find this as a failure too. So that's why I wanted to hear from Dean, but I understand what the application is.
Okay, just to be clear, the fence, it's not fencing a golf course, a soccer field, a ball field, ornamental gardens, the garden for Versailles or something like that. It's for commercial agriculture.
Yes.
That's the purpose of the fence. And if the field is converted to some other non-agricultural use, then it's gonna have to be taken down.
Well, per the permit application and the code, there are very specific rules and regulations about that. If it's not formed for 2 years, the fence must be removed and everything like that.
Right, okay, I like to say that because we have properties that get converted and people misunderstand. Great, so do we want to approve this then? I'll make a motion to approve the application as a 4-sided fence around this particular parcel.
For all 4 or 5.
Well, we'll permit for, if they want to put up split rail on the road and see what happens, they'll have the permit to put up a proper fence.
There's a split rail on Parsonage. Kim Lipman, I'm wondering how that works for her.
The what?
The split rail fence? Or maybe it's not split
She's
rail.
got a
it's just-
6-foot fence.
Oh, all right.
I
I stand
saw-
corrected.
The Ludlows were, I stopped and talked to the Ludlow, Peter Ludlow, when he's putting up his fence.
Yeah.
And the neighbor on that particular side had a 6-foot fence. And they told me that they were gonna skip that section. But a deer came in and jumped the fence. And
Right in front of them.
and so they kept going, they were the 8-foot. So validation that 6-foot, maybe if a deer is feeble, it doesn't make it. But in general, they do go right over it. Anyway, I've made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I do, Michael, I want you to follow up with the lease, grant to Dean. I want to know what that is.
Absolutely, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
You're opposed?
Post.
Okay. Well, you've got a fence.
Thank you very much. I will return. I'm very appreciative to the board. It's nice to meet all of you. And I will return with the lease information you've requested.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
If the only minutes we had, and I actually haven't read them, but from that special meeting,
Correct. I don't have any, yes, May 21.
unless somebody's hot to approve them, I think I'll wait until next month. That's okay.
They're pretty simple.
I think
Yeah,
they
well,
take it
I-
out from
okay.
the evergreens and see the fence and then they're gonna turn around. They're just gonna go around.
Southampton Town Police Report. Do you feel like doing that now? or-
Sure.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, let's see. In May, we're talking about May, there's one disorderly group, 2, building inspections, harassing telecommunications, 1 larceny, 1 making graffiti.
Really?
Ordinance of noise. Parking, 1 parking complaint, lost property, 1 reckless erratic driver, 2. Suspicious incident, 2, 18 traffic enforcement, 124 traffic stops, 3 traffic hazards, and it was pretty not very interesting month. There were 124 traffic stops in May as opposed to 75 in April. I don't know anything about any arrests. Doesn't look like any arrests were made.
Did they say where the graffiti was?
No. You read through the whole thing.
That could have been down at Gibson, Bill.
Oh,
I'm trying to
wow.
think if that was down. Gibson in May. Or exactly which.
So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's supposed to be 2025 road reports, not 2024 road report. Oops, on my agenda.
Gotcha.
So now we're going to work one? Okay. So we have questions for Jim Peterman? or-
Well, you've got the proposals in your
Right.
package for Town Line Road I'm sorry, for the start Parsonage Pond, is in there. And Jim, you could give them a little rundown on what your two proposals are for
Sure.
Parsonage Pond Lake.
Actually, I think it was last fall, Rhodey received a complaint from the owner of 232 Parsonage Pond Road. It was after we had there was a snow event, then we had some permafrost, then we had rain. And the northern end of Parsonage Pond Road probably had a foot of water in the road. She had sent some pictures. I went out there afterwards. To make a long story short, I got some plans from the town. They actually went in before it became the village. They went in 1993 and cleaned up the drainage that was involved in this subdivision. And there's a lot of easements that go through. There's a 10-foot easement that go through the properties towards Parsonage Pond, and they were all working pretty well, except the one that's in fronting 232. The town of Southampton, we asked the town of Southampton Maintenance Division to go out and try to find a casting that was supposed to be there to solve that drainage issue. They did find it. It was buried under like 8 inches of leaves and dirt. So they uncovered it, and it seems to be working good right now. They also cleaned out the end section where it dumps into the pond. So that seems to be working all sufficiently. Also, I was out there looking at the road conditions and the flood areas. There was like 7 or 8 areas where the roadway's pretty broken up. Biggest area broken up, of course, is where this flooding issue is. So the road not in bad shape except for these like 7 or 8 locations. So I gave 2 proposals. One is for just the patching of the bad areas. And let's see what that was. That was using the town of Southampton contracts this time. I looked at Suffolk County requirements contract, but using the towns was actually cheaper for the village. So just to do those pavement repairs, that would be a cost of like 35,000. And it includes Parsonage Pond Road. The patches are all on Parsonage Pond Road. So that would just be removing the deteriorated pavement, putting a new sub base in, and giving a nice patch, swell cut and patched. Then the second proposal used again the town of Southampton paving requirements contract, and actually milled 1 inch off all the roadways: Parsonage Pond Road, David's Court, Osborne Court, and Jarrett's Lane, and putting 2 inches of asphalt back in, and actually repairing the bad pavement areas also by putting a thicker asphalt section in those bad areas. And the cost for that was 160,000. And there's really no engineering fees itself. The fees that I had put in our proposal were just for the inspection when the contractor goes out there. So if the village elects to just do the repair of the 7 or 8 bad areas, our cost for the construction inspection and oversight was 3,000. If you decide to go for the full mill and full resurface of all the roadways in the subdivision, it would be $7,600. So with the estimated cost, by the way, Rosemar Construction is the low bidder on the town of Southampton requirements contract for 2025. So in the proposal, it shows the cost for the sort of total cost. LKMA and Rosemar is 37.5 for option 1. That's just fixing the bad pavement areas. And option 2, which is a full mill and resurface of all the roadways in the subdivision, is 167,600,000.
Questions for?
My thought is to just do the repairs. I don't feel that Parsonage Pond Road is in terrible straits for repavement.
Any questions?
What do you think? Is it a terrible road?
No, like I said, the roadway receive any heavy truck traffic whatsoever. That's why I gave you two options. The road is not in bad shape. It hasn't been touched in a very long time. I have no idea when the last time it was paved.
Pretty close to 40 years, right?
It probably 30 years. Would you say? I'm sorry, Bill, what did you say?
I thought it was closer to 40.
Yeah, well, probably at least 30. But the plan that I got from the village was a 1994 plan. And they didn't do anything with the roadway. They just reestablished these drainage easements. There's like this like swales and a few drainage pipes that were cleaned. Back in 1993, the plan was. So it was probably 93 or 94 they did the work. So
Jim, I have a question. If we do patch it, how long is that gonna last and when are we gonna have to patch more of it?
well, hopefully now that drainage issue is resolved, that should take care of the big spoiled area on the north end. But you probably got another 7, 8 years at least on the road. I'm sick if we just do the patches.
Okay, and if we repave it, what's our,
Hopefully you'll get another 30 years. Yeah, like I said, heavy truck traffic is detrimental to the most detrimental thing to the asphalt pavement, especially overloaded trucks, which you don't have going down this roadway unless somebody's moving.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be much redevelopment there. You know, like if you look at Sand Dune Court, which the village did way first road, I think, that was repaved.
Yeah.
That's in pretty bad shape, but that has a tremendous amount of construction going on. I mean, I tend to kind of towards doing the whole thing and forget about it. I mean, the cost of everything goes up every year. But
and you do
what
have
do the
it,
rest of the board think?
the funds are in the capital highway. 2.4, I think we have in there.
So we have 2.4 in there.
I would think just to repair it itself. It doesn't get any through traffic or anything.
Right.
No heavy construction going in there anymore.
Big difference in price too.
And what, just a question, Peter, just as far as the, so the issue was that they didn't clean something out? The town was in charge of cleaning that out, and then it went by the wayside and they didn't actually clean it out. It was under 7 inches of crap. Pardon my.
The town of Southampton Highway Forces, I think the village has an agreement that the town maintain the roadway. They're only notified to do the cleaning if you know, the village asks them to. Okay. So they, you know, the staff from 30 years ago might have known about this casting, but you know, it just disappeared over time. I guess you know, when it was heavy rain events, it just dragged leaves and debris and just went over the casting and eventually stopped working.
I don't think there's any institutional knowledge left in the town highway department from that time period. I mean, that's what happens. The guys who were there when it was cleaned probably 15 or 20 years ago, all retired. And unless they have a checklist, which they probably don't, there's no one looking to go back and take care of it. But I think you're right. I mean, when a drain doesn't work and the roadbed's wet all the time, the pavement falls apart.
Right.
Yeah.
The freeze thaw, the subbase freezes, and then that's what causes your, you know, pavement to basically explode.
Well, maybe we get it cleaned once a year or every other year.
Well, now that we know it's there.
Yeah, now that we know it's there, right, Jim? We didn't know it was even there before because.
Yeah.
So there is a risk. Let me just put in a different question. There is a risk that if we pave this whole thing and the drainage is still bad, that it could corrupt the new paving we do.
Well, now that we know it's there, I mean, this didn't happen overnight. Like I said, this road hasn't been touched in probably at least 30 years. So this took many winters of freeze thaw cycling to happen. But like I said before, I reviewed all the drainage swales. It seemed to be working well. This was the only one that had an issue, and now that has been, you know, addressed.
So I don't care whether we do the whole thing or just piece of it. So whatever the board wants, I mean.
I think them,
Well, can I add one more comment? You know, Rhodey, I make that map for you every year about the, you know, the general conditions of all the roadways.
Right.
Which I have a copy of. So you're all in pretty good shape. Let's see if I can get this. You're not gonna be able to see it. No.
Oh, yeah, I see it well.
We have it hanging in the other room.
Now they're hanging. But anyway, you can see those sections. I mean, that Parsonage Pond Lane is one of the ones that it's an acceptable condition. Most other roads that are in the village, there's only like very small amount that are in poor or acceptable. So we got like Poxabog Lane and Old Farm Road are acceptable. So just bringing this road up to the same standard as the rest of the roads in Sagaponic. And Town Line Road, of course, is a #1 disaster, but we're gonna talk about that next.
Right. I don't really care either, though, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna patch it.
Okay,
That sounds like what we're up to.
all righty.
My opinion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you should do the whole thing. We have $2.5 million in the capital highway. This will get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4 roads, Jim, off of our inventory. So I have plenty of money left to do Town Line, and we don't have to worry about going back to this 5 or 6, 7 years from now. It'll be done for 30 years. And like the mayor said, things don't get cheaper.
How
So
much interest do we get on that account? We don't
a
get
lot.
interest? I mean, what's the rate? Do you have any idea?
Off the top of my head, no, but
It's like
it's
three-
$5,000 to $6,000 a month.
Yeah, but I mean,
Under
in terms of the
documents.
percentage,
Yeah, I don't have a percentage on the.
I mean, it's.
I have it in the office. I'll get.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that the cost of asphalt is probably gonna exceed the interest we get on the account. I mean, that's why usually I'd say do things now, because they're gonna be much more expensive later. And that's my only concern is that, you know, get the whole thing done and then forget about it.
That's my theory too, Bill.
Yeah,
I mean, if we didn't have the money, then absolutely repay, but we do have the money and again, it would be
Well, Mike,
finished roads and then we can add that to the good roads and not worry about that for 30 years.
my 2 cents would be to do the full job. You go in there once and do everything and get out of there. So that's my 2 cents. But it's no difference to LKMA. I mean, our fees for this are nothing. So.
okay. Who doesn't wanna do the full job? Karen?
I think a patchwork is fine.
Anybody else wanna dispatch it? I mean, I think, it doesn't make that much difference, but, if you look at how the cost of everything's gone up, and we have the money kicking around, get the whole thing done. I mean, we're not gonna look at it again in our lifetimes.
I have no problem going either way.
Let's just do it.
you don't have. if
We'll
you want to-
take the advice of our clerk.
We'll take Rudy
Whatever the clerk says, I go. I'm going with the clerk.
Okay, we're gonna do the whole thing. Make a motion to do the whole
I'll
thing.
make a motion to do the whole thing.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Are we
You changed
doing
down there?
Town Line Road?
Next, that's what he's gonna talk about next, Bill. Yep.
Yes.
We need to okay the engineering fee for the Ocean Road, Town Line Road, is that it?
Yeah, I don't wanna do, cause I have to design it first. Well, Town Line Road, you all know, it's a very flat longitudinal road. So you have a lot, it's like 0.1% longitudinal, that's like 1.5 inches and 100 feet. So my original goal, and I know Bill and Rhodey know, I don't know if the rest of the board knows, we've made many attempts to meet with the town of East Hampton since the eastern portion of the roadway falls within their jurisdiction. I set up a few meetings that were not fruitful to try to do a 50-50 split on the costs, but the town of East Hampton, was not receptive to that.
Yeah, I'll just interrupt you. I mean, when I spoke with the highway superintendent, he said he had no, I said, well, when would you be doing it? He said, I have no plans whatsoever for repaving that road. And at the last meeting I had with Kathy Lee Burke Gonzalez, I asked her and she said, well, we're thinking about applying for a grant to pave that road. So there's no,
And I made overtures to some of the trustees and sent written communication to them, and there is nothing in their budget for them to do.
Well, yeah, Steve Lynch told me that he's got $600,000 for roadway paving for the whole town of East Hampton. That's what he told me.
Like they did Beach Lane.
Yeah, no, that wasn't them. That actually was the guys who put the
Yeah, but I mean,
windmills in there.
they go from the.
Yeah, it wasn't the town. It wasn't the town.
okay, sorry, Jim, go ahead.
So basically, it extends from the section that the Water Authority paved to, which is about 1,000 feet south of Wainscott Hollow, and extends southerly for almost a mile, well, a little bit over a mile, 5,300 feet, to 300 foot south of Daniels. Because there's some heavy ponding just to the south of Daniels on Town Line Road. So the project, what I'm calling for, since most of the pavement is completely failed, the subbase has failed. If you look at the pavement, there's a lot of coal pack, there's a lot of alligated pavement in there. So I'm gonna do what we did on Hedges Lane. We did a pulled up reclamation, which we take it's like a big milling machine, but it goes down 9 inches. It chews up the roadway into an RCA. It grabs the material underneath and turns it into a good compactable subbase. The machine makes another pass. We add calcium chloride to it. That brings a certain moisture content to the material, and then we hit it with the 20-ton rollers, and you almost have a concrete subbase. So that's what I plan to do on here. If the project would have moved forward with the town of East Hampton, I would have been able to undulate the road, which means I could put some high points and low points in, forcing the water to certain points and have it go off the roadway into the verge. But I'm going to have to try to do that with the cross pitch now. I'll have to adjust the cross pitch between 1/4 inch per foot and 1/2 inch per foot, try to get some pitch in this roadway so we don't have any standing water.
Let's undulate it all onto them.
Well, excuse me?
Pitch it the other way.
I thought about that. I said, we're gonna go do this project, and Steve Lynch is gonna come in and super elevate the road, with the East Side High, and just take everything and go across the plane of the road. But I don't think we do that. But the plan would be to, where I can, in the grass area from the edge of pavement to the property line, create some shallow swales with a leaching basin, a small leaching basin at the low point of these swales to, get the stormwater off the roadway and have it sit in the grass area and actually drain into the leaching basins that we put in. So I don't want any standing water in the roadway.
What's a leaching basin?
It almost looks like a cesspool. It's the round structures that have the holes on the side. So the water goes in the rim of the casting and seeps into this round chamber and leaches into the ground.
Okay.
So is there any issue as far as half? I'm thinking about the seepage, what happens if there's a huge pothole on East Hampton side and the water starts to leak in and down and under?
Well, we're gonna have a good sub base under ours. At some point, they'll have to do at minimal, they're gonna have to do a mill and overlay. I don't know when that'll take place, but them not doing, the road is crowned. So the water does not pitch towards the village side. So we're not getting stormwaters, from the town of East Hampton. Most of their water will sit along their edge of pavement. So if you look at their edge of pavement and the village side edge of pavement, it's very deteriorated. Because that's where you'll have the water sit and you'll have the freeze store in the winter. So
So when were you planning on doing this?
I think it would be after Labor Day. My plan is if this is approved, I'll get it on a survey list because I have to locate where buried utilities are, if I'm gonna put any like structures in. I also need the grades. I need I need cross sections to, figure out what I need to do. Where can I put some low points? Is there any kind of natural low areas where I could take advantage of? So my first step is the survey, then I'll design it, and then we'll look at either using, we'll probably end up using the county requirements contract because they have the full depth reclamation item in their contract. The town of Southampton doesn't have that. They have just a mill and overlay. But so what we're looking to get approved today is just the LKMA fees. And I estimate right now, well,
So it's a 10-foot wide roadway?
No.
well, we can discuss that. Sometimes it's at 11 feet. I'll know more when I get the survey. Because a lot of times the grass covers the edge. But like on other roadways that we have done, in the village has requested, a wider shoulder to be able to have,
There's a lot of bicycle and footpath on that road, so the wider the better. Agreed.
Yeah. I know we have a property issue down on Hedges.
Where?
The parcel on Hedges and Town Line is actually it was even brought up. He brought up the tax map. It was the first gentleman that was talking about the 4 parcels today. He brought up the tax map there, and it even showed the jut out. Normally the road line, the property line of the road is pretty straight, but that last parcel on Town Line Road actually juts out like 6 or 7 feet, from the properties to the north. So the property line is almost to the
602 town line. That's the property that he's talking about.
yeah.
Does it have to be an even line?
No.
No, I mean we could have 3-foot shoulder, and if it needs to go to 1 foot, it needs better than not. But
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, okay. That works.
Well, I think the minimal width. One of the advantages of doing a full depth reclamation is, we could set the machine, we'll go 13 feet over from the center line of the road or the double yellow line. And I could just chew that stuff up and mix it. Well, I'll get the grass off first, but it'll pulverize the material and mix it in with the roadway. And if we could make the new subbase 13 feet wide to accept a wider pit. So my recommendation would be the 10-foot, like we've done in other locations, a 10-foot travel lane, which is a narrower travel lane, which we've been installing in most of Sagaponack. It's a traffic calming feature that, narrow lanes tends to slow people down. And then with a 3-foot shoulder, which would be able to be used by pedestrians and bicyclists.
Yeah, that's great.
Is there a traveling line on Town Line as we speak?
A travel lane?
I mean, a bicycle lane?
No, I think there's a white line that's like 6 inches off the edge of pavement in most of the roadway. It's pretty tight.
Okay, we just need to approve an engineering fee.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I could do? I could bring up the costs and let me run the scenarios of different width roads when I do the design. And I come back.
Right, so right now the LKNA fee is 40,800 for this, to start this, Jim? And
Yes, that includes the survey, the development of design alternatives, the final design, and the construction administration and the inspection.
Okay.
Okay, make a motion to approve expenditure of that money.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Back to you when we have developed some alternatives and costs.
Okay,
Okay, great.
thank you.
Survey is done though. I already called 911 Was it 8-1, not 1, 9, 8-1. To get, takes
Markouts.
markouts, yeah, that's gonna, once it's done, I'll send the survey crew out. Okay,
Yep,
Thanks, Jim.
great,
have a great day, everyone.
thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
You're up next.
Here.
I'm good there, John.
If you don't already know, my name is John Marchetta. I manage the deer program for Sagaponic. Rhodey's been an incredible, hand in this, and I think we're 7 years in now. And pretty much know everything that needs to be known about deer populations in Sagaponic. How to deal with them, how to be gentle on residents and make sure that we take as many as we possibly can and hopefully give you guys enough information on, what we need to do to keep moving forward. I've done this a bunch of times. I can kind of go quickly with it and then see any questions that you might have. So Rhodey, you can kind of scroll through. The reports are relatively the same, except for my results pages. And if you kind of scroll down to those. The rest of this is your deer management plan, that when you need permits from the DEC, that's what this plan is. You don't have to rewrite anything. You just take this plan, you hand it to the DEC, and they give us deer damage permits. We maintain permits 365 days a year. We only use them up until the end of April because the amount of human population that comes out from the city, and we choose not to use either shotguns or archery equipment during those times. But if there is an emergency or anything deer related, I do respond to it. So if a deer is injured in somebody's backyard, gets caught in the fence, hit by a car, and it's not on a public road, as part of my contract with you guys, I come get the deer, either completely remove it or get it to a place that the DOT can remove it. So it doesn't cost the homeowner anywhere between $500 and $1,000 to get a deer off their property. We do that 365 days a year as needed. Okay, keep scrolling down. Okay, keep going down here. There should be so basically, okay, stop there. We really haven't had an increase in a long time. And when you do real statistics and look at real data, sometimes you get a bump in the data. And rather than not show this, I think it was kind of important to say, all right, why did we see more deer? Why did this increase 7 years in? And basically what my data shows is when you're sitting on the edge of a field and you can see 300 yards, we're still counting that deer. As opposed if you're on old farm and you're sitting in a small piece of woods and you count one deer that's 20 yards away. So, and obviously the properties you were just talking about, we knew that there was a deer issue there. So we really focused in on Daniels, and I know we took 30 plus deer out of 50 that I counted off of that property. The property next door is I guess it's a tree farm, and that's a large bedding area for the deer. And he's right, they're coming in from the west, walking east, and that's where we focused, and we did well. We'll be able to do the same thing in the upcoming season. We'll just look at how they're going to move, where they're going to move, and we're going to adjust to that. But we did see an increase. But with that increase, we also had an increase in the number of deer that we took. So it kind of makes sense. We saw more. We knew they were there. We focused on it, and I think we had a record number harvest for the 24-25 season. And you can kind of see that in these numbers here. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see, what we did for the year. And again, those numbers are based on how long we hunt, the weapon we hunt with, where we hunt. And it's pretty much balancing out now what we could possibly do with what we do. If it's a larger issue for the area, we can, shift things around a bit. But without disturbing residents, I think that we're pretty much reached the stabilization of what we can do with, the properties that we're dealing with. Rhodey and I will also send out letters again in August, and knowing that, properties come and go. It doesn't stress me out at all to see a property get either sold and not being able to be used anymore. We just look at what the deer do, and I'll tell Rhodey, I need to get access to 2 or 3 properties. Sometimes it's mid-season. And we've been very successful with that. It really hasn't been an issue. And I think that the residents see the same things we're seeing. So if, I'm seeing, 20 or 30 deer on a property, the resident knows that they're, Rhodey sends them a letter, they say, okay, it's time to bring you in. And they may have been against it in the past, but when they see that many deer in an area, they'll know, okay, let's do something about it. And that's basically how it works. Very few resident complaints. When you were talking about, the police interactions, I was waiting to see how many deer car strikes there were. And it sounds like there were very few. And that's what I work on. I look at how many deer we see, I look at how many car strikes we have, and how many complaints there are on the whole tick issue in the area. I can tell you that Sagaponic's not that bad for ticks. Relative to a lot of other places that I deal with on the island, I wouldn't consider Sagaponic as bad.
Are the deer getting faster? Is that why?
Are the deer getting faster? Maybe they're getting smarter. Other than that, if you do have any, concerns during the year, contact me. Call me up. I'm available to meet with homeowners, to meet with, municipalities, anything that you guys need. I'm happy to meet with people and talk about situations, and usually there's an answer. And it's pretty easy to figure out as long as we have permission in an area. And again, people see 30 deer, they pretty much are going to give you permission. Again, properties come and go. I'm not too concerned about it. Any other issues, concerns?
No, I have some questions. So, obviously in Waynescott there, they do not allow the deer culling there in those fields. So are you seeing an increase of deer? Personally, are you seeing an increase of deer funneling through into our village from there?
Obviously, if you drive through Waynescott, through Waynescott in toward Georgia, you can look to the right and see about 60 or 70 deer that are there constantly.
They like that spot.
Right,
So
and they
we'll
like
just
that
leave
spot
them.
because when they come to Sagaponic, they get pressure. We have a lot of pressure here in Sagaponic. I'll use hunters as that pressure. So especially during the season, if a deer comes from Waynescott into Sagaponic, they're being hunted. There is hunting in Waynescott. Don't think that because they don't have a program doesn't mean there isn't hunting. But I would say a lot of those guys are, I can't confirm or deny this, they're hunting antlered deer, and they're not required to harvest every doe that they see. The hunters in Sagaponic that are under my management, they don't have a choice. If they come here, they have to harvest every single female deer they see. There's no choice, otherwise they're not part of the program. Waynescott does not have that. So there are more deer there most of the season. And as you said earlier, when you plant a crop, deer can smell, and they'll walk a mile to that crop. That's absolutely true. So hopefully we can get some pressure here before anybody loses a crop. But overall, there are more deer now on Bridgehampton on that side and Waynescott on this side than there are living in Sagaponic. I think I have numbers there of like 250 or something along those lines. When I first started, you were well over 400. And the number of deer that would be here if you didn't have a program is in the thousands.
Plus the deer fence going up.
Yeah, so that was my second question. Obviously, we've approved some pretty large deer fences on an acreage basis. How is that affecting you? How would that affect your business for next year?
There's deer fences all over Long Island. As you go all throughout East Hampton, it's common. I deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. Like the deer fence that went up on Galban and the one that's going to go up on Daniels. I'm going to go to, I guess it's Holden Court, and I'm going to make sure that all the people on Holden Court, I have as much access to that as possible. So I'll access the same number of deer. I'll just do it slightly different. Again, I've been used to seeing it in, all throughout East Hampton for years, throughout Peconic Land Trust property. So this isn't anything different for me. So what you guys approve, I just work around.
I have one question. So we obviously see Waynescott. The pressure's working on Bridgehampton and to the north on Sagar Road.
Yeah, if you see, when there's no leaves on the trees, you can see the deer a lot easier in large herds. Or, if a freshly planted corn or something like that. So in October, November, look to the north side of Sunrise Highway and you'll see the herd. Look in Waynescott to the south side of that Waynescott Road there, you'll see the herd. And they're probably 50 to 60 strong, and that's half of what you see. So maybe there's 120 there, and there's 120 there, so there's 240 deer. Again, you can raise that up or down slightly, but those deer are not typically in Sagaponic, and I have cameras that tell me when a deer walks by. So on a John White property where those deer come across Sunrise and come through the woods and
Montauk Highway.
yeah, they come across Montauk Highway and they'll come in through the Pike Farm or around those fences. I have half a dozen cameras there that span 200 yards. I know when those deer come across.
They have night vision too?
Sure. So they'll actually, my phone will alert me. So I have probably 50, 60 cameras in Sagaponic. And they're not facing houses, they're facing woodlots and things, but I know where the deer are. And every single hunter that hunts has to report through an app to me how many they saw. So it's kind of like a bunch of fishermen being out there the day before and telling you exactly where the fish are. I know exactly where the deer are and what's happening. And you get to look in your backyard and see where they are. And I listen to the residents, I listen to the hunters, and I listen to the cameras. And that's how we shift around. That's how I knew once the deer herd was on Daniels in January, it was obvious. And fortunately, we were able to use shotguns in that area. And again, it was probably one of the biggest successes in Sagaponic. It worked well.
One final question. You obviously sat here and listened to our conversation about the deer fence that were being proposed up. And you think what's your assessment as an expert here, what the deal will do if they leave a low hanging fence there?
I mean, you guys said it's pretty obvious. The deer cross Daniels every single day. Every deer that is south of Daniels will come through either the Hyatt Bass property or they will come further west. They'll come through the Christmas tree farm up through where Galvan was or the doctor's property. They move south to north and they end up in the fields up north of Old Barn. So that's the way they move every day. And then they go back and they bed along the beach, along the dunes, from Sand Dune Court all the way to town line. So those deer do the same thing every day. As they cross that road, they're gonna either come around and walk through that fence, or they're gonna go up to Dr. Schulman's and they're gonna feed up over in there. It's just what a deer does. They're grazers. So are they gonna walk around that fence? Yeah.
Can we put them all to Schulman?
Come on.
Can we push them all to the Schulman property?
And then as soon as you walk away, they'll walk back. One thing I was thinking about suggesting, obviously there's an aesthetic thing here and you want to stop the deer from coming on the sides. Has anybody thought about a lower electric fence that might be around that post and rail that as the deer will go between that post and rail, a lot of times they won't jump over the top, they'll go between it. And again, I've seen it up in Bridgehampton. It doesn't work 100%, but if it stops 65 or 70% of the deer from going through that post and rail fence, maybe that's acceptable to you and acceptable to the farmer that
Hey, what's that again? I'm sorry.
an electric fence.
What we have on Park
She
Street.
has.
Does it work?
Yeah, but once in a while there are deer out there.
Right, but it's not 45.
Oh, no.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So the electric fence is kind of an in-between. It doesn't stop the deer completely, but it slows them down.
It depends on what you're growing and how
Yeah.
much damage your crop can.
Exactly,
sustain.
sustain, yeah.
I mean, I had used that many, many years ago and we couldn't stay in business doing that.
They jumped right over it and it was right there. Yeah.
Well, they learned, yes.
It's again, it's you guys have an issue here and you have decisions to make. I focus on, again, reducing the whole deer herd and the total number of deer year over year. And it works well here and the lack of complaints is amazing. Most people understand now that deer management is needed. I used to get a lot of complaints. People used to follow me with pots and pans in the woods. Now people thank me. They wave at me and say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
We're good.
thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Again, you have my number. Even if there's issues now, call me. We're gonna take care of it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
George.
job.
Have a good day.
On to assembly permits.
Okay.
Pardon me.
Yeah. Not
You don't
yet.
have to, but you don't vote on your own.
I'll see some kids
Just
getting
recuse
involved.
yourself from that.
So-
you're not getting at it.
The event name is Gathering in the Garden. The Wainscott Heritage Project, it's a fundraiser, 602 Town Line Road in Sagaponic, Brian and Elizabeth Hedges. On July 20th, 2025, I guess that's a Saturday. July 20th.
This Sunday. Is it?
It's a Sunday, yes. From 5 to 7, 5 to 7, yeah. And it is, number of people expected to attend 70. And then there's, 5 event production people, it's cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. And the number of vehicles expected is 75 to 80. That's a lot of vehicles for 70 people and 6 people involved, don't you think?
Yes.
It's for the community, what? Community Wainscott.
And they're
Wainscott
getting,
Heritage Project.
Yeah,
they're parking all on site, so there's no off-site parking.
Yeah. She lives in Sag, but she's mostly Wainscott. Parking will be on the property of the owner. There's no security, the catering. Wainscott are providing the food, garbage will be collected in bags taken to the town dump. There's two or three signs for parking. Any questions?
No,
The parking is, gonna be on their property. Yeah. So I make a motion that we accept this permit.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next one is July 4th barbecue, Jason Mudrick. It's personal barbecue on 24 Fairfield Pond Lane in Sagaponic on July 4th, Friday, from 7 to 11. And it is 150 people with 25 working the event. So that's 175. Number of vehicles, 50. There's a valet company, People Pool Valet Service. The security company is CM Security. And the catering company is the Tao Group. The refuse company is Winter Brothers Garbage Solutions. There will be a bathroom, 1 portable toilet provided by Magnificent. And there'll be some background speakers, walkway lighting, lights to the house. The tent is to be determined on size. 1 bathroom and light, okay. And the parking is going to be on Daniels. Let's see, by a field. Staff parking further down the road. You see that? So are there any questions? It's on Fairfield Pond Lane. Yeah. I'm not sure I understand the parking, to be honest with you.
I thought it was a little far away, but I don't know why they didn't actually propose some parking on the hedges. It's closer, at least the guest parking up there, and then they could put their staff down here. That to me would seem more logical, but that's where they want to run them, either one in front of the field, so
Yeah,
either one is fine, but I guess they have little
and
golf
it's,
carts.
and it's 7 to 11 on a Friday, July 4th. It's gonna be fun. Traffic. Any questions?
Well, I guess we'll need a motion to accept the permit for the July 4th barbecue.
Second.
Aye.
Okay. And then there's application for a wedding at the Landis residence.
I'm officially recusing myself.
Gotcha.
Recusing.
Recusing.
208
records.
Parsonage Lane in Sagaponic on September 13th, which that is a Saturday. From 5 to midnight. Let's see, it's the main house in the cottage. A Sperry tent, you don't have a size, but that's okay. Number of people attending is 160 and 20 are working the event. It's a wedding ceremony and reception in the family backyard. Number of vehicles expected are 20 to 30. Valet company parking systems. I don't know who they. On-site security, no. Hampton's Aristocrat permit is the catering company. Hampton's Aristocrat is the catering company. Outback portable toilets, an 18-foot main trailer in the backyard, 2 porta potties, single stalls for staff members. There will be a sound system. DJ, up lights and down lights. Here, the Sperry tent is 46 by 105 and a catering tent 40 by 20. And there'll be 1 generator, a 25 kilowatt generator. How noisy is that?
The generator is gonna be
Right next to Carrie's
as
house.
far away from Carrie's house.
Put it on the east side, will you?
I don't put the generator wherever my fellow that they put.
Okay. So the parking will be on the south side of Parsonage Lane on the easement. And they can also be parked on the north side of Parsonage Lane on the easement. Cars can be parked across from each other with south side and north side meet. I don't agree with that. They can be parked on both sides?
Well, as long as they're not across from each other, because if you have them
Well, that's
both
what this
sides.
says.
I
To
think
be
they're
parked
both-
across from each
They
other.
cannot be parked.
Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Cannot be parked. Good thing you're here.
I recuse myself.
All right, okay, so, and then the picture is, yeah. And parking across the street, actually, right?
Yeah.
And then west on the other side of the street. Any questions?
We find the thing.
I make the motion that we accept this permit for the Landis wedding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mark is accusing himself from the vote.
Anyone can come for a drink.
Gibson
Read it.
Dunn, New York Partner Party. Okay. This is a small casual gathering on 15 Jacobs Way on Friday, August 1st from 3 to 6. It is at the family home. 50 to 75 people are coming and 10 or less will be working it. Social gathering of partners, casual dinner and drinks, 25 to 35 vehicles. There's a valet company, North Fork Valet. And their catering company is Events by RHC out east. Refuse will be collected and disposed. And the parking is going to be on hedges. I guess that's in front of a field. Do they know
I
that?
think he's got it right on the, they've got it right on the corner, because
Oh,
this is Jacob's Way, so there's a fairly large verge.
But it's
here.
in front of homes?
It is, but this home here, it's set back.
Set back, they do this every year, by the way. It's a
The hedging
repeat.
is back here, so there actually is plenty of.
Are you
room.
near them?
Yes, it's a repeat party,
Does the parking work?
yes.
Okay.
Are you going?
He's actually, the process was to send out letters to the neighbors, and I got a letter. It was really well done, so. I'm talk to you.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, make a motion, we accept the permit for Gibson Dunn New York Partner Party on August 1st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the next is the Birthright Israel Foundation. On July 25th. I don't know what day that is, from 5 to 7.
It's a Friday.
Friday?
Mhm.
Should have looked that up before. Okay, and it is at a private home, 2 acres, there's a tent, 75 to 100 people and 15 working it. It's a cocktail reception with a short speaking program. Number of vehicles expected are 50. It's a people pool valet. And it's the Sterling Security Group for security. And catering company will remove the refuse. There will be a microphone and speaker. And the parking will be on Wilkes, guest cars, and then staff further down towards Hedges. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, I'm making a motion to accept the permit for.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we have a July 4th Shabbat. Private residence on. 183 Daniels.
Parked in the same spot. But finish,
Okay,
and I will take care of
on
that.
July 4th, which is Friday, from 7 to 12. Let's see, it's a private residence. Will be a tent. Number of people expected 80 to 100. Number of people working it are 20. People Pool Valet Company, it's the same company. And security is private security. There will be home speakers, and the tent is 24 by 64. And they are planning to park on Fairfield Pond Lane. Oh, no, wait, is that Fairfield Pond Lane? So, who's the other?
I know they didn't realize it, but
They're different days though, isn't it?
are in, let's see.
July 4th.
7 to 12, this is 7 to 11. So they are closed this day.
Yeah.
I will talk, and it's the company, same
People.
company
Same.
doing both of them.
Is it people?
So, yeah, and they may be coordinating the parking
Which
for
is
both
why,
of them.
which
It's
is why
fine.
that's parking is down there.
Yeah. But I will confirm that with them to make sure they have enough. They may have to move the parking for the 24 Fairfield Pond up to Hedges, at least for the guests. So,
Well, this one doesn't have that many cars.
right, but it's still in the same area. And they originally had their guest parking right up on Daniels Lane, across the street from Bill, but I thought that was too congested up there, so I
Yeah.
suggested that they move it down for the guests. And not realizing, of course, they should accommodate both of the parties there. But I will work that out with them.
Okay, so, any questions? And as soon as Rhodey clears it up, I make a motion to accept the permit for the July 4th Shabbat.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think that's it.
Very good.
Good job there, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next thing is changing some parking rules by tax on Main Street, north of the store.
At the end of your new business. See. It's 2 pages.
on the east side of the road.
Yeah,
from the-
I don't know anything about this. What is it telling us?
East side of the road from, just south of, who's across from the store?
There's,
Amy
Amy
Sullivan,
right,
Just south of
her driveway.
To the stop sign by, up by, Sagaponic Road, there'll be no parking on that side of the road.
that's the east side?
East
Yes.
side, correct. Then on the west side, from the, corner of, Sagaponic Road south to the, driveway entry, to the, rear lot at the Sagaponic store, pole number 55, there'll be no parking. And then there'll be an additional 42 feet, which is two parking spaces, which will be short-term, 15-minute parking. So hopefully people will cycle through so people can get their mail.
And the reason why this is being brought to your, before you is because of the success of the Sagaponic store. The parking, I've had numerous complaints about the parking from the neighbors in the neighborhood, and just, it needs to be addressed. So this is, some of the no parking is already on the books, and I've asked the town to please install the signs as our code already reads. And then this is additional no parking that will,
Yeah, there are no parking signs south of the store, which just aren't there anymore. They've disappeared over time. So we don't have to change that. We've already got that on the books. But north of it, there is parking. So they can't ticket people for blocking stuff.
Where is the store? Top left?
it's
No.
bottom.
Oh.
Right here, where.
Where's the back parking?
No, it's top left.
Top left, yeah.
No,
No, it isn't left, yeah.
no, it's
Yeah.
not the top left. The
Yeah.
store is down here, right down here. It's on the bottom. This is Main Street, going up,
We can't see south of that.
and then closer. Okay, so here is the Sag Road under my little, move that, I can't move that. Nope, sorry. So this is Sagaponic Road up here.
Going left.
Yeah, see my little cursor up there? So then you're gonna go south on the west side of Sag Main Street, down to this pin right here, which is just north of the kind of the indented area where the parking is right here.
Right across the street from,
Right, so Amy Sullivan is right here. Okay, and then.
And could I interrupt? This is Henry Weisberg.
Yeah, hold on a minute, Henry, just a minute,
Okay.
okay? And then, so here's the store right here.
Right.
And they have parking in the back of this area here.
right,
And we're trying to get people to get in there. So by putting no parking, because of course, all these houses here, including Henry and the Lockheims, and now this lot here is gonna be developed, and this is the Albright house. They're just parking all over, they're blocking driveways, so it's really a mess.
Can you go
So-
south a little bit more, Ruby?
Pardon?
Can you go south a little bit more?
no, that's going north.
That's as far as I can go on this picture. Anyway, so south of this is where there is already restriction from Hedges Lane to where the parking area on the east side. That's already on the book, so the highway department was reinstalling the signs because the signs are not there. And then from the driveway going into the back parking lot on the north side of the store, we're proposing 2 spots, which is what, 40 feet, Bill?
42 feet.
42
Yeah.
feet, that will be 15-minute parking, so people can park
Where's
there.
the- can I-
Just north of Merrill's driveway?
Yeah, so it's
Yes,
gonna be
right
like
through the
right
house.
here,
Yeah.
Right in front of them.
right here. I don't have it marked out on this. It would have just gone under the trees and.
So, okay, so yeah, I think there needs to be temporary parking so you've addressed it for the post office and for people
Will it
to like.
say postal
Currently-
patron parkings only in
No,
that 2
it will
spots?
say 15-minute parking because you can't really designate
Right.
for that, but you can time limit it. So that's what we did. We figured 15 minutes should be enough for somebody to get in if they have to deliver a package or whatever, standing at the counter. So that hopefully we move those 2 spots to be available for those people going into the post office.
They're also looking to hire someone to
Direct
direct
traffic.
traffic to go into the back.
Yeah.
Which I think that
Currently, the workers are parking there too.
Well, they should be using the parking lot. And then the parking across the street is 30 minutes. So I have asked the traffic control, the Southampton Police, to send traffic control over there on a regular basis, at least on the
that's my
weekends,
next question.
to have them patrol that area and hand out tickets. Well, they can't hand out tickets if there's no parking, if the no parking signs are not installed, or if there's no restriction there. So now with these installed and then the new resolution or the new parking restrictions, then they can start handing out parking tickets. Hopefully that'll force people to park in the parking area.
So,
That's our theory.
right, so what, but my concern is, even though you have 15-minute parking, although it's meant to be for the post office, why not say it's for the post?
Yeah,
You can't.
on the road, coastal parking.
Why can't you?
Yeah, so uniform traffic regulations say you can't designate a spot, you can do that in the parking lot. Like if it's behind it, say post office parking only, but on-street parking, you can only do parking, no standing, or time limit parking. So that's what we thought, if you said 15 minutes, kind of gets you in and out of the post office. Maybe you can cheat, get a cup of coffee if you want to do very fast, but it's 15 minutes in and out.
So
The
north,
post office, you wouldn't be able to, it wouldn't make it any easier for traffic control to enforce. Because then it would say, you have a cup of coffee, but you have a mail package in your
Yeah, but
pocket.
it's still a moral
Yeah,
thing,
no,
you know.
we were in a
How many
different
people
era.
are just gonna, how many people are gonna sit there and think, I'm only going into the store quickly, and ended up being there for more?
so
And
north,
That's right, it's an enforcement issue.
north of the 2 spots, that will be 15 minutes only.
Mhm.
You can park up to the yellow,
You can park up, yes, up to that look, yeah.
past
yellow
Amy's
thing.
driveway. Oh, no, past,
Yeah, like right,
Past my driveway.
right.
just for,
Henry's driveway.
Blockheim's.
Right. It's in that,
And-
it's where that, you can see the pavement. kind
Yes,
of
it's the,
smooths
where the pavement,
And then they put the sticks.
Could I make a note about that?
there north, it'll be no point.
Oh, no parking?
Correct,
North.
from there to
North.
Sagasonic Road.
Oh, yeah,
On the west side.
but what I'm saying is past the 2 that are 15 minutes, there'll be enough for like 3 or 4 more
Oh,
cars.
yeah.
Oh, more than that.
Until
Yeah,
the no parking starts.
Right. Right,
Right.
And it's only gonna be on the west side.
well, and on the east side. The east side, we're restricting parking too.
Well,
Oh, no, I'm saying the only, they're gonna allow parking.
Oh, the parking, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so it's
yes.
not going to go in front of Henry's.
Right, where it's paved right now for parking, it will remain parking.
Okay.
Henry is on, if you'd like to recognize him, Bill.
Henry, have you got, you're not
Yeah,
gonna,
so I thank you very much for this, and I think it's gonna solve the problem with one exception. So if you actually walk the street on the west side, that yellow pin is actually too far north, because it really if you look where the grass is today and where people park, and there's somebody put up the owner, I'm not clear who the owner is today, of that west side property. It's actually, you've actually given maybe 3 or 4 more spaces to parking than has traditionally been the case. So I would move
Henry,
that.
just to be clear, that picture is a guesstimate. The numbers that are in the resolution are
Precise.
precise. Yeah, so my pin may not be exactly where that
Okay,
part.
because I
Yeah.
haven't seen the resolution. I assume the resolution expresses it in feet from
yeah,
something.
does.
Henry, I measured it.
Yeah.
I measured it. Only the asphalt parking that's there now will be allowed to be parked.
Okay, because there was grass, and in fact, I'm not exactly sure who did it. Like 2 weekends ago, somebody put new turf in there, and
Sure.
put in those temporary orange stakes. And I think that's what should, be the measure.
That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, then I'm satisfied.
Good.
Thanks, Henry.
Okay.
Okay.
What else
Look, this is an improvement. I think we may have to come and address this again.
Yeah, I guess if I can make one of so I'm out, I live there and I'm out on the street more often than I think I should be, and I have never, since the store reopened, I have never seen traffic control or the police. The police like to hang out near the school, but I've never seen them in this neighborhood.
Okay, well, I have
Okay.
asked the chief and I will certainly tell them again. And the sergeant. So I will send my email out again, asking.
Okay.
I think once the tickets start to be
Yeah.
written, then people they'll see some.
Okay, I'll make a resolution to read this thing, or can we just,
As presented.
as printed, to extend parking, change parking regulations as we just discussed. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And there's also a resolution to do the 15-minute parking for those couple spots.
And that's just the 2 spots?
Yes.
Yeah,
Not
there
across
were
the-
2 cars there, and I actually measured what those 2 cars took
Yeah,
up.
the post master likes to park
Yes,
there.
Yes.
Wow.
She
needs to move.
She
Because her
has to-
car stays there all day.
Yeah.
And it's so easy
So
to
the
just.
staff has to
come in
park
and
in
put
back.
it-
That's, yes, the intent was that building, all the staff in that building was to park in the back parking lot. So I know.
Can she park at the house, I wonder?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know
sure
where
she
the
can.
parking is.
No,
sure.
I mean at the house, not in the back.
They are parking there now, too.
I asked
You mean
them,
in the driveway, there's
Yeah.
right in the driveway right there. She didn't even get closer.
They'll work it out. They're
they
gonna work
said
it
when
out.
they get.
Exactly.
She's gonna get a ticket then.
Fire
I'm sorry, the time limit, did you make a motion on
Yes.
that, Phil?
And I second.
Okay, thank you.
Uh,
You voted on it?
Yes,
That was an all in favor on this one?
I've been kicking around the whole farmland preservation thing, and, it occurred to me that we've got at most six properties maybe that could be, and probably less than that, probably only, I think 3 people have asked for, offers from the town. Maybe we'll get 1 or 2 more, but that's about the end of it, because I got this statement from some of the town people, well, we already spent a lot of money in Sagaponic on land, and we can't spend it all there. I'm not sure the whole deal with Schwenk, what kind of offer you got, we're not privy to that type of thing. There's questions as to what they really offered and what the appraisals were, which I'm gonna hassle around and see if maybe I can get that from somebody to understand if the town, I got this impression that maybe they were lowballing it, but then I hear maybe they aren't, in terms of whether they're offering appraised amounts or less than appraised amounts. And it occurred to me a couple things, that once those few properties, whatever happens with them, whether they're developed, they're sold into development, or they're preserved somehow for farming, we're done. There's no more farmland to be preserved in Sagaponic. And so the statement that we've already kind of gotten our fair share, that's not operative. We're going to be contributing to that fund for decades after all the farmland here is gone. And I think I want to make that point with the town. And also, say if you put another 30 houses in Sagaponic, if you develop all this land, whatever's left, that stream of cement trucks coming down County Road 39 through Watermill, it's all going to be drawn to 30 more houses. All the service people, the guys who mow, take pools, all that stuff adds to traffic. There's a great benefit really to keeping it farming. Not only that, you've got locally provided food, it makes this area. I've said a couple times that when I was, 25 years ago, when I was looking at zoning codes for other villages and village codes, one of the ones I looked at, which at the time, not everything was available online, now it is. Back then, one of the ones I looked at was West Hampton. And I kept looking, I thought, well, what do they have in terms of farm stands, or this or that, doing with farming? And it finally occurred to me, they have no farming whatsoever in that village. And you know, this really makes this place special. And a little bit we can do to keep pushing that, I think we have to. In terms of either getting people to look for appraisals and being open to selling development rights versus selling to developers. And also people who may want to contribute money where some landowner feels that their property is worth more than they've been offered. Somehow, I mean, it's a very valuable thing for us to do. And I think, you know, we have to be, if we just sit here, who's the leadership in this community? We need to do something about this. And so anyway, there's more to come. I'm gonna shuffle around in the background and see what I can find out and see if I, you know, get in front of the town board and the town board members and just see what we can get done. Because they control the community preservation fund. And that's the big pot of money. The other thing, which I gave Dave, I was reading the East End Beacon, and they have an article about
Oh, yeah.
land use, or you looked at it in South Pole Town. I mean, all the towns and villages I think are trying to wrestle with this affordable housing thing. And reading through it, the thing that I really took away is they didn't have a solution. They had stuff which was in place which didn't seem to work. And I just became more and more aware of the potholes, all of the ways that affordable housing can go wrong. Where people, you know, the Airbnb, you know, when you take that, what's supposed to be for a town cop or somebody who works locally, a teacher, hospital worker, and you can make a lot more money running it on weekends, you know, to a tourist, so to speak. Anyway, I think we've got a long ways to go on that, but I think as much as you can glean from the paper, and I think hopefully Mr. Egan will show us a few things, maybe we can figure out something. I have little hope, but I think we got to look at it. You know, one of the problems is all our houses now have been built to the max. There's no floor, no GFA available to like add a cottage or something else. But some of the other communities, there are still small houses on big lots where maybe they could do some accessory structure, but we'll look at it. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that. So anything you can find out, any of the board members can find out or figure out, would be a help. And we're going to keep going on that. We're running kind of late. Can we pay the bills now?
I have
or just-
one
Okay,
discussion
please.
quickly,
Yeah,
and it's minor. At the end of Sagamane Beach on the west side of the parking lot,
Uh-huh.
the sands come forward
yeah.
too close to the parking cars. It needs to be, did you ever call the town?
I
on
did
that?
not do that, yes, but it's on my list of things to
Okay.
do.
So it needs to be pushed back so that people can drive around.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. And Brody, did they come downtown line yet? I didn't even.
I asked them to, I don't know if they did. That and Gibson, I asked them to cut back on.
And the other thought is, yeah, every time I go over the bridge, they haven't really cut the stuff short on the west side of the bridge.
Which
Okay.
bridge?
Side bridge. Yeah.
I didn't know if you meant the train trestle.
Oh, across the pond,
Okay,
yeah. Our bridge.
okay, I'll got
Yeah.
you.
And I know they can do it because I did it before the 100th celebration. And they just let it go.
Well, can I make one comment?
Sure.
Just want to take a step back because I think you made a good point about the farmland and obviously I've been a little active with the Southport Land Foundation and Halsey and there is, you know, there is movement going on with some of the farmland. We obviously have a nice proposal get it from the Shulman property. And so the problem is that everything takes time here, as we know, they move slowly. But the CPF seems to be in a little bit of I'll be on the public statement here, but I mean, it's, CPF seems to be very slow and a little bit of disarray right now from a management perspective. And that's where the bulk of the money is right now.
Right.
So, and they're even talking about directing some of that money away from the farm fields into low-income housing and water projects. So, you know, that's where the politicians are driving it.
Right.
So it's a bureaucratic mess a little bit there, but I never got the sense that they were full with Sagaponic. That's an interesting, you know.
I've had this statement.
Yeah, so I certainly gonna try to stay on top of it because I'm with you. We're in step there. We need to save this farmlands here.
Okay, thank you. Pay bills?
I know.
Let's see.
Not a lot, because we had 2 meetings in May to close the fiscal year out, so this is just a
So it's just a-
smattering of bills. Yes, just the general fund, the
Oh, okay,
44,000.
motion to expend from the general fund, $44,742.35.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
And that was the one item?
That's it.
Okay. Our next meeting is, I don't know,
July
July.
16th.
16th?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And entertain a motion to.
Wait, public input.
Oh. We have a public, somebody from the public who wants to speak? Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a reminder that, just a reminder that the general village election is on Friday,
Oh, right.
so come on down and vote, and 12:09. Is something happening, happening that just started though? Yeah, I have it posted on the bulletin board, I don't. It's tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow?
Okay, 19. Or we think, I think 11 AM. It's on, it's on the bulletin.
Make sure that
board.
I'm not incorrect, I'm pretty certain.
That's Juneteenth.
Yes.
Are these pretty shocking?
Be sure you do-
Well, the problem is that it's the day before my election. So the office is off, but I will be here because if there's anything that comes in for the election, I have to be here to receive it. So it's a very odd, I mean,
It's a national holiday though.
it is, and the staff has it off, but I'll.
Think about you. You are.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks very much, folks.
thank you.
Fancy pools and food.